Gleno has now written what appears to be a short novel on the board and is returning to the microphone now.
And it was so critical, it had to happen right in the middle of the radio show.
Yeah.
And he hasn't even returned to his seat yet.
Because I want to explain something.
All right.
What did the president just say at the UN?
What does this have to do with the NFL?
It has nothing to do with the NFL
referees,
and I know that's very important to you.
It is.
What did the president just say?
Let me get the quote here. He said, "The future must not belong to those who slander the Prophet of Islam."
Wow.
Okay, let's just talk about this just for a second.
Wow.
Slandering the Prophet of Islam. What does that even mean?
And how does the future belong to anybody
the movie
who
maker
slanders
that everybody thought was ridiculous anyway?
So what does that mean? Does that mean you will shut down anyone who slanders the Prophet?
Well, yeah, that is the new UN resolution that Hillary Clinton has approved and worked with the OSI, the Islamic Council. She worked with it over in Turkey. It is finished. It is just waiting for ratification. And believe me, it's not going to take ratification. It's being praised everywhere. I know people say, well, it has to take through the Senate. I know that.
Yeah.
Crisis. What you're forgetting is crisis. You can get anybody to say, well, that guy made a stupid video. How am I on the side of the guy with a stupid video? The president says it shouldn't belong to nut jobs like that. I agree with you. But if there's a real crisis going on, which is just at the beginning, you'll get people to sweep into anything. Just make it stop. But what you forget is, let's look what I wrote down on the board. The UN comment. Okay. In the project, they take over business. They intimidate, infiltrate. They start their own banking and investment systems. They have the groups that they have, just a couple of them. Muslim Brotherhood, CARE, ISNA, Hizbut Tahrir. They're covering education. They're covering political. They're covering media, everything in that. I added Soros to that because Soros is the one who has compiled the list of the biggest Islamic haters. Islamophobia is a made-up word by the Muslim Brotherhood people. Islamophobia. That's what they came up with, and that's the thing that George Soros is doing. He's painting anybody like me or anybody. This documentary, I'm telling you, everyone involved in this documentary is in trouble because of Islamic phobia. They intimidate and shut them down. And you know what? I'm about to tell a story that I've never told on the air of something that I know that has to do with the big networks that I personally witnessed. And let me tell you, this exists. They are a very powerful force in the media. In education, think of what they're teaching our children. That Jesus is a myth. That God is a myth. That none of this stuff actually was. And you got to stop talking. These crazy people who say the world was created and it just didn't spontaneously combust. Those are crazy people. However, you need to be tolerant of the people who are different than you, like those in Muslim countries. You don't understand their rich and varied culture. Excuse me. They're mutilating women. They're beating women. Are you crazy? That's more detrimental to humankind than saying that there was a creator? Are you out of your mind? You want to talk about magic? Our children are being indoctrinated at every level that Islam is good. Well, I don't know if Islam is good. I know people who are Islamic. I have friends. But those are the ones that are under attack. Those are the ones that everybody in power all around the world say are the bad Muslims. Well, I'll go with the bad Muslims then every time. I don't know which Islam is going to win. I'm in so much trouble just on that phrase. Just on that phrase. People, if you don't think we're in trouble, we're in deep, deep trouble. Then you have Muslim tolerance. So no Jesus, no Jews. That's crazy stuff. But tolerate Muslims in EDU. In art and culture, it's the same thing. In television. Remember they were talking about how they needed a little House of Islam? How all of these organizations are trying to put new shows on that just show Muslims in really happy places. You know why? Because they've learned. The left and radical Islam are the same in many ways. They've learned. What was the biggest thing for gay marriage? What's the biggest thing that happened? The best thing. The best thing that happened for gay marriage was will and grace. You mainstream it. You change people's perceptions, and they're doing it on all fronts. Meanwhile, go try to find a good Christian on a good, contemporary, cool show on television. You can't. Go find a cool conservative. You can't. South Park can rip Christianity apart. You can rip Mormons apart on Broadway, not a problem. But you can't say a word in intellectual discussion about Islam. Not, let alone do a show. Can you imagine if we did a show on the Prophet Muhammad on Broadway? They would burn all of Broadway down.
The island would capsize.
Right. And the brave artists would be against it. You can't have a cartoon of the Prophet Muhammad without shutting down 20 embassies. But you can put the photograph called Piss Christ up in any museum, and our government will pay for it. And again, read the quote that the president just gave at the UN.
Sure. The future must not belong to those who slander the prophet of Islam.
Here's the last part. Crisis. It is planned. It is in the project. There will come a time for global jihad. They've just been positioning their troops. They just need to soften us enough, get in, make us ready to snap, and then have the crisis. The crisis is here. The crisis is called the Arab Spring. But beyond that, there is a global economic crisis that is coming. They know it. They helped plan it. And the easiest way to win it is to use that crisis that they created, but blame it on hate. Blame it on a movie that came out in the summertime, but was released strategically to fall in line with what they needed. I mean, that's what's happening, gang. And we're in the end game. Please tell your friends to watch tomorrow, Dish 212. Watch TheBlaze.com, TheBlazeTV. I ask you to subscribe. I ask you to batten down the hatches. We're on the other edge of the eye of the storm, and this one is full of red cells. The storm is about to hit us the other eye. The first part of the eye hit us in 2008. The second part is about to hit us, and this one is really the dangerous side of this hurricane. There is sunlight on the other end, but only if we're informed. And quite honestly, only if we beseech the blessings of God and not the Muslim Brotherhood's version of Allah.